big news drop there. And honestly, I was just overall impressed with the production value in general, especially given, work from home mandates and working and living through the quarantine. So I thought they did a really good job. It was exciting to watch.
Lucy, you're a regular cast member of our PlayStation Podcast Beyond, and I know you did a bunch of pre- and post-show coverage of the event yesterday. What were your overall impressions?
Okay, first of all, Beyond. Second of all, I thought that the show was great. I think, as Tina said, there was a great lineup of games. Sony really positioned itself as like, this is the holiday console. These are the games you're only going to be able to get on PlayStation 5. A lot of them were very family friendly. I really think that was a smart play on their part.
Yep.
And the console itself, it's wild. It's ridiculous. I love it. I think it's just like overall, it was just a really, really fun
beautiful.
show. And I think
it's futuristic.
Sony is kind of in the lead now when it comes to this console race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
She's
I tend to agree with
on.
that. Sam, I know you've been doing a lot of gaming on Xbox this generation. Did the conference yesterday do anything to sort of change your mind about where you'll be spending your time next gen?
There's so many games across both systems that are awesome. I think like you're going to be fine with either system at this point. But man, I really liked yesterday's show because I always say this. I don't really care how the console looks, although this one looks kind of goofy and I don't really want it outside of my home console. I kind of want to put it in a cabinet. We'll see how that goes. But I do think the games are really important to focus on. And man, there was such a huge variety of games. And one thing that I need to do is start like seeing previews of these games, which we're doing and stuff like that, because I want to see what they look like in like super high res, glorious 4K, because all I've seen is like my best YouTube setup, and like I can't really see if they look different in next gen, but they look fun. And that's what's awesome. We have like, what was it, Tina? 37 new fun games to check out now?
Console does not look
so
cool.
cool.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yes,
I can't
woman
wait.
of color.
I was a little bit shocked at how many games there were in the conference yesterday. Also, it's crazy to think that Sony backed out of E3 last year. They weren't planning on coming this year, but then E3 gets canceled, and now Sony's back with an E3 level conference the week of when E3 would have been, and like Microsoft is nowhere to be seen. It's just a crazy.
2020 is a wild ride for all of us, Damon.
Yep.
Sony has got
also the presentation from home are so good. They're like so like did you like just show the trailer? There's nobody walking around and pacing. And honestly, I was a little bit amazed that they were able to get people like cut out on black backgrounds for the interviews that they had. Like I don't really know how they pulled that off. But look at our crazy stuff back here. But they looked really pro, and I think they did a really good job just showing the important stuff. And I like that.
Have you heard that, guys?
So as the event was going on and we just kept seeing game after game after game, I started to wonder if they were going to show the hardware. But of course, they did at the end, revealed the PlayStation 5 hardware, and it has been, it's been a talking point for sure. It is a wildly different console design. I'm in the camp. I think it's a little gaudy, and I much prefer the sort of stylish, classy Xbox Series X design. But I know that apparently I'm in the minority there. 68%
the Xbox
of
Series
IGN
X is a rectangle. What is he on about?
Console design. I know Sam seems to agree with me. Lucy is a little bit more in favor of it. Tina, how do you feel about it?
I think I'm in the like 10 or whatever other remaining percent of IGN polled readers that just don't really care. I'm fine with it either way. It's going to be the system that I play. Hopefully the amazing games that they showcased in the conference the other day.
Yes, Lucy.
And that's the thing that I have my mind most on. And then the controller, which looks comfortable and maneuverable, because that's obviously the vehicle by which we're experiencing the game. So the console, I'll throw it up next to my TV. I don't mind either way.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
I mean, it's going to look fucking beautiful.
That is very different. I like the design of the controller a lot.
I can't believe that guy
I think the console's pretty ugly to me. I don't know. We have a quote from Sony Interactive Entertainment President Jim Ryan explaining the design choice today. He said the PlayStation sits in the living area of most homes, and we kind of felt it would be nice to provide a design that would really grace most living areas. That's what we've tried to do. And we think we've been successful in that. Jim Ryan, my wife would beg to differ with you. There's no way she would let me have this out.
But what does Jim Ryan's living room look like if that is kind of like, just a like an easy thing to slip into it? I mean, I just think this design is bonkers. It looks like, it's basically the sort of the gaming console equivalent of racing stripes on a car. It's just so silly, and I love it. I love it because every other game console of the last generation has been so conservative with its design, and this is just so ridiculously out there.
I think it looks like a Wi-Fi router, like
They've
those.
gone the
They keep on
extra
trying to
mile.
like attract people by adding antennas and fins and stuff to Wi-Fi
Why do
routers.
people keep
I
saying
think that's
this?
kind of the same idea. What I do
Why?
think is cool about
No.
this is that when this is a retro console, it will look so retro. Like it's not. It's like,
There you
yes,
fucking
like, it looks
go.
like a VCR. Like it's just so funny to look back on old consoles, but some of them look stately and cool still. Like I think the PlayStation 1 looks really nice still. But man, this thing's gonna age in a really fun, cool way.
Well, so that's ironic because Jim Ryan had also said that they wanted the design to look like a piece of
Watch
furniture.
when everybody
which
plays
is
the
funny,
PlayStation
but
5.
I guess it's
Everybody's
big
going
enough
to
to look like a
backtrack
piece of
about what they've
furniture.
been saying
his
about the
quote's
look
not
of this
mine.
console.
But he said that they wanted it to be future facing, to be a piece of equipment that looks like it's designed for the 2020s. So I don't know, is everything going to look like, a spaceship in the future? I suppose so, if that's the inkling that they've gotten for this design.
I'm ready for 2020. I'm ready.
What is this guy doing?
There
What
you
is
go.
he
It
doing?
needs to be a little
And by
flapped
the way, I
open.
love that girl, Lucy.
They revealed
The
two
one who
models of
knew.
the place.
So happy there's an ethnic minority.
They revealed two
being
models of
around
the
there.
PS5, the standard one and then a digital-only edition that doesn't have the disc drive. Apparently, that's the only difference between the two. But that was a
Standard,
surprise to
please.
me. Lucy, were you surprised by the digital-only edition of PS5?
I was actually more surprised with the one that had the disc inclusion. Actually, it really felt looking at the two that the
Why?
digital one was the design. Do you know what I mean? And then like the disc drive one was kind of like, oh, where are we gonna put the disc drive on this?
Wow,
Let's
that's
put
a
it
good
on the
point.
side, and it kind of looks like it's the digital one that's kind of had a little hernia going on. But
She did not
I'm
just say
really pleased that
hernia.
gamers have the option for both. I mean, we all know that there are those of us who still
She's a
really love
savage.
our physical media collection, and I don't want to see that go away anytime soon. So I'm pleased that PlayStation owners and
Can't
fans
believe
have
she
the
just said
option
it
for
looks like
the
it had
disc
a
version.
hernia.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that
Woman,
until just
you are a
now that the
savage.
base for the one with the disc in it is also chunky. It's a
Yeah.
different base. That's so funny.
I have to.
Man, I'll
Yeah.
never
Boy,
think of this in a different way. Lucy, you've completely ruined or heightened my senses of this console. This is perfect.
Just a little
It
hernia.
also
A little goiter.
It makes perfect sense too, because it's obviously having price differentiations is beneficial because then you're able to reach a larger audience if you're able to give them the two different
There you go.
variances there. But we haven't heard any news, and Jim Ryan said that there's no plans to reveal the price anytime soon. So it's difficult to say, but I do find it funny. Not totally surprising that they have a discless version, but I do find it funny that they've sort of formally unveiled it before Microsoft, who's been the ones kind of working on this behind the scenes, before they've had a chance to formally reveal their option.
Yeah,
You know, the
that's a
law
really good
is
point.
if they don't reveal the price by the end of the summer, then it's free for everybody. So
Yep.
They only have a few
has
more
to
We don't
be.
make.
Who is this
We don't
guy?
make up
Why
the
does he
rules.
keep saying
That's
these
just
things?
the
yeah,
law.
that's the
I
law.
wish it was true.
Okay, we need to take a quick
I
break.
wish it was
but don't
the
go
law.
anywhere. GameScoop will be right back. We'll be shining a spotlight on some of the standout games of the PS5
Radoslav.
showcase.
Konnichiwa. Hi, Radoslav.
IGN
Design
Summer
of
of Gaming
console
is brought
really
to you by
slick,
Fuser,
even $1,000
who'll be partying
worth
with us
it.
all summer long.
If it was 1K, I don't know if I'd be able to buy it, but it's definitely worth it. But it won't be that much. For sure. Oh my gosh. It's beautiful. I love it. I can't believe
The
people have
next
such
generation
an
of video
issue with the
gaming is on the
design.
horizon, and IGN is here to bring you the latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news and analysis in our new weekly show, Next Gen Console Watch
ready.
2020. We'll bring on the experts to discuss and analyze all the latest developments around these new consoles. From frame rates, services, features, peripherals, and even all the new tech jargon, Next Gen Console Watch 2020 will keep you up to speed on everything leading up to the next generation of gaming. Join us every Friday for a new episode.
Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games
Okay,
and entertainment,
guys,
but we also have a team
I
of
have
some
not
of the world's
had
biggest
breakfast,
fans of your favorite franchises. From
Oh, no,
breaking
I
news
mean, I
and
have not had
exclusives,
lunch,
never
so,
before
like,
seen
I've
looks
got
at movies
pretzels
and
and
games,
snacks,
to
so
reviews,
you're gonna be
let's
hearing me
plays, and live
crunching, okay?
streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need, no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
News, games, and more is IGN's live
Guys, out
news
of
show
all the
every
games
day
you
of the
saw
week that covers
yesterday,
all the day's news about
what was
games,
your
movies,
favorite,
comics,
and
and of
why?
course more. This is our daily live show that takes a rotating cast
get
of
so
IGN
happy when I
talent
see
going
Aries.
over all the
You guys
latest
know me
news of
well,
the day
like, you've
while
been
taking
watching my
live
channel
questions
for a
and
while.
comments from
So you
chat.
guys know
We're
that I love
live
Final
every Monday
Fantasy
through
VII
Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific,
and
7
Aries
p.m.
Faye.
Eastern, and you can find us on mixer.com/IGN, youtube.com/IGN, and twitch.tv/IGN. See you there.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news,
Wow.
gameplay,
Out of all of the games,
custom original content, the best
I'm really
user-generated
honest,
videos and
I
art,
think best new IP
memes,
was definitely Kena,
and a whole
Bridge
lot
of
more.
Spirits.
Be part
That
of
was
the conversation
beautiful.
throughout the year.
Um,
Follow IGN
and
on
Combat
Instagram,
Game,
Twitter,
Abe's.
Facebook,
Oh
TikTok,
my God,
and
Abe's
Snapchat.
Odyssey, Oddworld Soulstorms. I was like, what? I couldn't even cope as soon as that came on because there was news about it forever ago, and then there was nothing. Right? We had no information, no updates.
Welcome back to GameScoop here on IGN Summer of Gaming. For some bonus Summer of Gaming goodness, download the TikTok app, follow IGN,
Hi.
and search IGN
Konnichiwa.
Summer of Gaming hashtag, where you can also upload your own
Yes.
epic
Devil
gaming moments.
Inside was
Or leave us a
also
yap of video
beautiful.
reply in the comments section of IGN.com, and your yap
I agree with
may
those.
wind up on the stream. Right now, the GameScoop crew is taking a look at some of our favorite games
Yap.
shown at Sony's PS5 reveal, and I think everyone is in
I wanna
in
be on the
agreement
yap.
that the real standout of the show was Stray, because apparently you play as a cat.
Yes.
Well, we're all cat lovers here, so obviously we would say that.
Plus cats.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, it's like
Yeah.
it's cats have always taken that kind of backseat, particularly in RPGs, like same as dogs, I suppose, but cats. And I love the fact that we're actually going to be able to play as
I
a
love
cat
the
in this
cats.
weird cyberpunk world. And I just think that like
I love
cyberpunk and cats
cats.
together at last, it's a beautiful thing.
R.I.P.
It's like
humans.
fucking cats.
It's, at,
Look,
at least
a
the
cat
robots
would
are
never
remembering
wear a
us.
backpack. Ever. You would never be able to get a cat to wear a backpack. I know in this weird dark future, they've gotten cats to do things that cats would normally do, but I was pretty amazed by that.
I mean, this is clearly strictly
a
for cat
beautiful
survival,
I
the
really
reason by
liked
which
it.
it has this accessory. So I think it's just
It has a
adapting
really
to the
distinct
cyberpunk
charm,
world around it.
You know?
Like what?
Also, the
Sam?
cat-
Like, what? No,
Kinda
Sam, I
reminds
want
me
to
of the
know what
movie
things
Chappie.
are the cats doing that they wouldn't normally do? What like dark
Okay,
deeds
you
have they
see
been driven to do?
This, Lucy? Like the cat just had a droid friend there. The cat would absolutely swat that out of the sky. Just nail
Thank
it
you.
immediately.
Not if it deems them potentially there for treat.
I think this is why this
opportunities.
game is
we
so
don't know the
interesting.
full
It's
context
like, why is it a
between
cat
the
and
cat
not
and
human?
robot
Have
or
all the
sorry
humans
droid
died
relationship
out?
yet.
What's happened?
It's just
So
the trailer
that's a good
for
point.
now.
So
Tina,
is the
what
cat
if
the
this
only
is not a
true
game
life
about being a
form
cat?
here?
It's a
Like,
game
you know
about
what I
leading
mean?
a cat with cat treats.
Yeah,
I would
it could
rather be the
I
cat.
mean, environmental
I'd much
puzzles.
rather be a
Yeah.
cat.
Why
My
are they
cat
so
would rather
that.
be
radical?
a treat.
It appears to be a world inhabited by robots where humans are no more.
Exactly.
Which actually
This is
reminds me
what
of
I
an
said.
episode of Love, Death, and Robots. I don't know if anyone
Mm-hmm.
saw that episode, but there's an episode where robots are touring a planet where humans used to live as tourists, and the only living creatures around are the cats, and the robots are really scared of the
Aw.
cats.
Aw.
Aw.
Remind me a lot of that.
Yeah, they
Anyway,
become
this
the
game
new
looks
king.
They're really scared of them. That's great.
that game looks awesome. But let's talk about Ratchet and Clank, and actually the subtitle escapes me.
Ratchet
Rift Apart?
and
Is that right?
Clank!
Ratchet and Clank.
Yes,
Rift
that's
Apart. That sounds familiar to me.
Look,
To
Or as
me,
Brian
this was the
Altano
real.
says, rip a fart.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
Of course he
Sorry.
does. To me, this was like the real demonstration, the real next-gen demonstration. And can you guys still hear me right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
they're just
So it
laughing.
looks like the screen is frozen. Just making sure you guys are still here.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
And
yeah.
we're checking out
Okay,
cool
okay.
B-roll.
Okay, good.
this
This is
beautiful game.
the really impressive next-gen showcase to me because they're using this sort of like interdimensional warp mechanic to warp between worlds instantly. So you're instantly loading an entirely different game world on the fly, which seems to really be showcasing the speed of the PlayStation 5. What do you guys think about this one?
Yeah,
I just want to jump in
absolutely.
and say, like, absolutely. It was the
I agree
only,
with
in
you.
my opinion,
Right.
real showcase of the SSD at work. I thought it was incredible. One thing I would really have liked was a little bit more of this throughout the show in general. Like, I think with the Spider-Man Miles Morales game, they could have shown us some gameplay because, as we know, that game's going to be all about speed and swinging through massive environments that are going to load
That's
in the
why I
blink of an
really
eye.
appreciated.
So I thought this was wonderful, but again, I really thought it was the only showcase of the SSD.
I really
at work.
appreciated the games.
Yeah,
It's
Lucy,
all
I
about
agree.
cinematic.
Not just like cinematics yesterday,
Yeah,
but
they
had
had two,
actual
which was nice
gameplay.
to see, like both of the options, the trailer and then the gameplay segment too. And I think in general, the Sony conference really didn't have a lot to specifically say about what could be possible with the PS5. They did kind of recap some of their buzzwords, a lot of which obviously were about lighting. And I thought that Ratchet and Clank did a good job of showcasing that. I mean, obviously, it's a very lit up, bright, animated game. But even you
This
can
lady
see just like
is spot
reflections
on.
on the ground, just so impressive.
I
And
love her
I'm guessing that's
analysis.
going to be
Hold up,
part of
guys.
that
Let me try
PS5
and get
experience.
this
But it would have been nice
quality
to
higher
see
for you
some of
guys.
that a little bit more obviously in some of the other games too.
Yeah, Tina made the point I was going to make that when you actually see the
this
cinematic
is
trailer turn into
slow.
gameplay, you see the cinematic trailer turn into gameplay, and you're like, oh, this is how fast this game is. That was really cool, and I agree with you guys in the next gen stuff. I'm worried about Ratchet and Clank because the series itself has always delivered really cool graphics, and it's usually fun, but it's not. It never achieves that kind of Banjo-Kazooie level of like, or Mario Odyssey level of like exploring these areas. And I really like hope they really worked hard on that. And I think the platforming has always been taking a back seat to the
think
kind of
so.
I don't know, the
I
kind
think
of like
judging
look of
by
it.
yesterday,
It's a little bit more about the combat
We
and
can
all the,
have high
the
expectations
wacky
for
gadgets
this.
that you have.
Well, they
lean more
sure
into
nailed that in the trailers.
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
And then also
like that
the
lady
long
at the
rumored
end, the one in
Horizon
blue.
Zero Dawn sequel, Horizon
Forbidden
Forbidden
West.
West.
Forbidden West.
Forbidden West.
That's right.
How can
Finally,
they
this
forget
was
the
finally
title?
revealed.
What?
I think this looks really cool. I know Sam will agree with me on this. The thing they have to do, if this is a non-negotiable for this game, you have to be able to climb
It's
everything in this
gorgeous.
game.
If they need it, if they're gonna make this, people always compare Horizon to Breath of the Wild, right? And like, I think that it could be an amazing Breath of the Wild competitor if you can climb everything. They always seem to want you to actually swim everything, though, in this game. They show a lot of underwater stuff, and I think that's like the big gameplay expansion they want to tout.
I love the underwater
Yeah,
stuff.
I love it.
I thought
Actually,
it
in
was
the trailer,
gorgeous.
Aloy's kind of narrating what you're going to be seeing in the sequel. So she's saying, "I'm going into new depths," and then as she's floating under, kind of submerged underwater, and she's kind of giving a few tips and about what we're potentially going to see in the sequel. I thought the trailer itself was just really
I
well
really
done,
like this
narrated by her.
lady's analysis.
I think that I'm
spot on.
so excited for this one because Zero Dawn was one of the most gorgeous looking games of the last generation, if not the best looking game of the last generation, at least on the
It's
the
incredible.
PlayStation
like,
4.
watching this is like
And the thought of this on the PlayStation 5 with areas that are able to be
promising.
created in
Damn,
such
look at those
in
skills,
such sort of
though. Climb, girl,
with such
climb.
detail. Because one of the big things that Mark Cerny said was that we're going to be eliminating these kind of broad open spaces that that need to just be kind of bland to fill loading times in, right? And that's all going to be eliminated. And this is the first really exciting open world we've seen on next gen. And it gave me chills. It was my absolute game of the show.
So the last game, it was
Hi.
a spoiler where it was set.
I'll call
I
you
remember
Planet.
people were a little bit mad at me for
'Cause I
kind
don't
of
wanna
figuring
call you
that out
Adele.
while I was playing it. But this one clearly is set on the West Coast, and you can see Yosemite and Muir Woods and San Francisco, and I think that's always fun for people that live on the West Coast to explore things and see how they look in games. And I'm really excited about that in this game. I'm so excited to see that stuff.
for sure.
All right, we need to take another quick break, but don't go anywhere. GameScope will be right back. We'll be talking
Another
about Spider-Man,
break? These
Resident
guys
Evil, and
haven't
much
even
more.
done anything yet. Okay, I guess I'll go back to eating my
Brought to you by
pretzels then.
Caesar, who'll be partying with us all summer
Do you know what I wanted to see yesterday? Was Final Fantasy 16. I was so looking forward to it, and then we got nothing. And I was so let down, but then I was like, okay, I guess there's going to be an even bigger conference
News,
And
games,
then
and more
Square
is
Enix is gonna
IGN's
be like,
live news show every day
"Here's
of the
our
week that
golden
covers all
title,"
the day's news about games,
you know?
movies, comics, and of course more. This is our daily live show that takes a rotating cast of IGN talent, going over all the latest news of the day while taking live questions and comments from chat. We're live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and you can find us on mixer.com/IGN, youtube.com/IGN, and twitch.tv/IGN. See you there.
The next generation of video
Sorry,
gaming
Planet,
is on
I'm,
the
like,
horizon,
munching
and
away
IGN
and
is
I
here to
don't
bring you
want,
the
like,
latest
the
PlayStation
sounds
5
to
and
go
Xbox
into the
Series
mic,
X news
'cause
and
your
analysis
ears
in
are
our
gonna be
new
like,
weekly
"Oh my
show,
gosh."
Next
But
Gen
anyway,
Console Watch 2020.
my thoughts
We'll bring on
on
the
Resi
experts to
8.
discuss and
What
analyze all the
the
latest developments
fuck?
around these
That
new
thing
consoles.
is
From frame
absolutely
rates,
fucking gorgeous.
services,
Sorry, I'm like
features,
using this like a
peripherals, and
weapon.
even all
It's
the
just
new
a
tech
wall, I
jargon.
swear.
Next Gen Console Watch 2020
Resi
will keep you up
8
to speed on
blew me the
everything
fuck away,
leading up
but
to
guys,
the
this
next
is the funniest
generation of
part.
gaming.
I
Join
didn't
us
even
every
see
Friday for a new
Resident
episode.
Evil like underneath Village 8. All I was concentrating
Not
on was
only
when
is
the
IGN
village
the
turned
world's
into
biggest
8, and I
media
was like,
brand for games and
Village
entertainment,
8?
but we also have a team of some of the world's
And it was
biggest
only
fans of
after
your
when
favorite
somebody in the comments was like,
From breaking
Resident
news and
Evil, and I was like,
exclusives,
no
never
fucking
before
way!
seen
I
movies,
lost my
games,
shit. I was like,
reviews,
what the
let's
fuck?
plays,
How did
and
I
live
miss
streams.
this? But it
IGN
was
brings you all the
fucking
coverage you need,
insane.
no
I
matter
was
where
really
you are.
scared watching the whole trailer, the
Whether you're
whole
on
way fucking
IGN.com,
through. Like,
the IGN app,
Resident
YouTube,
Evil 8
Facebook, or
brought
Snapchat,
the fucking
we've
money.
always
Like,
got you
that
covered.
trailer blew
IGN,
me
the
away.
#1 source for all
One
games
thing
and
I love
entertainment
about it
fans
is obviously
worldwide.
Resident Evil games are
If you're
always
not following
atmospheric,
IGN on
so it was
social media,
really
what are you
atmospheric.
waiting
But
for? We're constantly
the thing that
updating
I
our
love the
feeds
most
to bring you
is
the
that
latest news.
I love the fact that they incorporated all that sort
Custom
of
original
cult element
content.
into it. Like, if you watch the trailer carefully, they had this kind of cult vibe going on. Then there was like witches.
Memes.
Then there's this like random fucking werewolf out of nowhere. And I was like, fuck, I don't even know if I'm watching like Resident Evil, Silent Hill. Like, it was
On
everything
Instagram,
rolled
Twitter,
into one and more.
Facebook,
Like, I want
TikTok,
all of
and
those fucking
Snapchat.
mythical things in there. Like, it was amazing. I was blown away. But I loved it. I don't even know what the hell to say other than I want it, and I definitely want to play it.
Welcome back to a very special game scoop on IGN's Summer of Gaming. Coming up after this is our Bloodborne charity speedrun, and later on we've got IGN Expo 3, jam-packed with trailers, exclusive reveals, and in-depth developer interviews. And don't forget, all Summer of Gaming long, we're asking you to give to the Bail Project and the World Health Organization by following the links in the video description or heading over to donate.ign.com. By
Thank
donating,
you.
you'll have a chance to win codes for games like
Twilight.
Resident Evil 3.
Oh my god,
or
don't
Swag
say
from
that,
companies like id
Planet.
Software. Donors who give more than $50
Nah,
have a
it
chance to win
wasn't.
a
It was
custom
nowhere near
Summer
that.
of Gaming Xbox One X. We've already generated over $16,000. Major shout out to everyone who's been donating. So cool to see that. Let's get right back into it.
Heck yes.
We're talking about some of the highlights, some of the most exciting games from the PS5 conference yesterday. Let's talk about Spider-Man Miles Morales. We've learned a little bit more
Diversity
information about this
in this
now.
game.
It's a
I'm so happy.
standalone
It's a
entry,
black
not a
male
full sequel.
lead.
We should
And
expect it to be
then one of
similar
my
in
like
scope to
Hispanic
something
followers
like
was like,
Uncharted,
and he's
Lost
Hispanic,
Legacy.
and I think that that's the surname,
Lucy, what was
right?
your
Morales?
sort of impression
So
about this game? Is this
I'm
gonna excite
really
you?
happy.
This is
that
very
they're
exciting for
exploring
me.
all
I
this
love that it's set,
diversity.
in like Christmas time, and obviously I love the focus on Miles Morales because everyone loves him. I am a little disappointed that like it was a sort of standalone and that wasn't communicated up front. I think that it could have gone a long way for someone
Why?
just to have announced it and contextualized it before this trailer, which admittedly looks stunning, but I think that there was a little bit of
is
communication
stunning.
that could have gone a bit further around this one because, people
don't
were
think
expecting
so.
that this was
I don't
Spider-Man
agree.
2 starring Miles Morales. That's what people want. So finding it's kind of like a standalone is a little disappointing. At the same time, I still think it's an
Why?
awesome
Why is it
game for
disappointing?
Sony to have out the gate with the PlayStation 5.
think it
Super
was
family
stunning.
friendly. Everyone loves
I
Spider-Man,
think it
and it's filling that
dropped,
gap.
like, a
That
fucking
like
creative
people who
bomb
love
on
pop
the whole
culture are missing
of
right now because
the gaming
Hollywood
world.
shut
Like,
down, no
that
MCU
trailer
going
was
on or anything like
absolutely
that. So
gorgeous.
it's
I think
it's an
she's
awesome,
wrong. I
awesome
think even if
game.
they
I'm
didn't
sure. Like I'm
define
very
it
excited for it. But
beforehand-
yeah, standalone, kind of disappointing.
I don't think it matters.
That's interesting. And like Tino was saying, I think this would have been a good opportunity to show a good chunk of gameplay. It's a sequel to a pre-existing game. You assume they're going to be using a lot of the same assets. So it seems to me, and it's also since it's apparently a launch game for the PS5, it seems like they could have like walked us through a level or something, or shown us a boss
Yeah, I
fight.
was gonna
Is that
mention
what you
that.
thought,
This
Tina?
got
Yeah. Sam or Tina?
Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, yeah. For 2020, that means that like probably it's a launch game. We only got the 2020 date because they're not going to tell us what the launch date is of the system. But it's really cool to have a Spider-Man game at launch, hopefully.
That was the
I
only
was
thing
really
that I
hoping to
wanted
hear
to see
more
more
about
of
the
the
launch lineup.
Spider-Man
But if this
was
is like the
just more
only thing
gameplay,
that we have on
because
day one, everybody's going to play it. It's like
think it's
the
gonna be
most
fucking
natural
insane.
game for everybody to get back into. The swing of things, right?
Aha, you're so funny.
So for my part, yeah, I totally agree. There was some lack of clarity there, which was unfortunate because I think it sort of has dominated the conversation a little bit.
she
Obviously,
agrees.
the
Oh,
internet
no.
will move on, especially as soon as we see any level of gameplay. And seeing gameplay would have
Oh,
been cool
man.
because they specifically were saying that it's kind of an enhancement of some of the, and this is where some of
We
that
needed
confusion came
gameplay,
into
for
play.
sure.
Calling it an enhancement, which is why some people were thinking, oh, is this a remaster with some expanded missions with Miles Morales? Regardless, apparently a couple other people are also calling it an expandalone. So add that to your roster of video game buzzwords.
Expandalone.
But for my part, I was kind of reflecting on the
Oh,
Inside
God.
Xbox in May, and then obviously yesterday's Sony conference, and thinking about how many cool like psychological thriller horror games there were. And I know Lucy's with me on this. Like we're just big fans of that genre in general. So it was really exciting to see as personal fans of that. But Miles Morales' chapter in Spider-Man was exciting, and specifically because it stood out as just a fun trailer. The music was fun. Him like kind of leapfrogging around and swinging around was really fun. So it was exciting to see something that looked like it was going to be great, not because it was going to be tormenting and really like dire, devastating, depressing storylines. Obviously, there's a serious tone behind the storyline as well, but I just loved that the trailer was coming across in this very like comic booky fun
I
way.
love this girl. She's
On
so
a mechanical
spot
level,
on
it's so
in every
cool to
single
switch
analysis.
Spider-Man like that because he has different powers and you won't have to like come up with an excuse to take away everything whatever gained like Metroid style, like this is a separate standalone like power building game and you're going to move differently and disable enemies differently. That's all good.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you were saying, Damon, like it would have been really nice to have just again to reiterate, just to have a little bit more of that SSD showcase.
But you already
happening
said
here,
this,
because
lady.
of course, and when we first heard about the
I feel
PlayStation
you,
5
but
in that
still.
Wired article, that was what Mark Cerny was talking about. He like showed the reporter a level in Spider-Man and how quickly you could swing and load the world compared to on a PlayStation 4. And just seeing that in action would have been mwah,
Chef's kiss.
I believe
chef's kiss.
I believe the
Especially for
I believe
Shattered
the,
Dimensions or something like that.
That kiss was creepy. Stop it.
Yeah, I think the Oxford Dictionary announced that expandalone is the word of the year for 2020. The other weird thing about Spider-Man Miles Morales is that it's a standalone expansion to a PS4 game, but you can only play it on PS5, right? Because they've announced that PS5
because
games
Lost
aren't
Legacy
gonna
wasn't like a
compatible.
piece of DLC. Like you had to buy the game separately. So I think they're really trying to. I don't know
Yeah.
why they're even.
Yeah,
they
but
should
there's
just
going
call
to
it a
be a
sequel.
ton of
But I guess
games that
they're
are going to
worried
go
that like
cross-gen right
people
now.
think it's too small or
including
something,
Final
which kind of
Fantasy
worries
VII
me. I don't
Remake.
really know. I just say it's just another Spider-Man game. Like, come on. I don't get it.
Okay, another game that was revealed, although it's been rumored for a long time, was Resident Evil Village or Resident.
That with a merchant, you know what I mean? It's like we're seeing a lot of the sort of eccentric nature. What are you buying? We're seeing some of the eccentric nature of the original entries come through, and that's so exciting to me.
I'm hoping village is such a scary word, right? I'm hoping village is like an idea that they're exploring this, where it's like before it was like a mansion, and you could kind of Metroidvania around it, right? Like you can move around and come back to where you started and kind of unlock it all, and that's what always Resident Evil's been about, like explore. I hope this is kind of open world. You can do that in first person with a Resident Evil game. You can go out and explore this whole village in the snow, in the winter. It's probably gonna have some Shining vibes. It looks cool.
And there
Yeah,
are
I was gonna say
werewolves
the
as
same
well.
thing.
And werewolves.
Yeah.
Not a cat.
But I was going to say the same. I was going to
Yes,
say
it
the same thing
did.
about the environment too. Like the mansion in 7 felt really claustrophobic, and obviously to a certain extent by design, because that adds to the horror feel. But it definitely am looking forward to having a couple of those like kind of really tense moments in a bigger environment, and then be introduced to all of these insanely new, creepy werewolf, zombie, whatever crossover characters that we're going to have to face up against.
Yeah.
All right, we do need to take another quick break, but don't go anywhere because GameScoop will be right back, and we'll be sharing our personal faves from the future of gaming event and some of the awesome games revealed at our own IGN Expo. Speaking of IGN Expos, we've got another one today, right after the charity speedrun. That's right after this. That's Expo 3 at 2:30 Pacific time. There's going to be tons of exclusive content you won't want to miss, so buckle in because there's a lot of good stuff yet to come.
IGN Summer of Gaming is brought to you by Fuser, who'll be partying with us
wait.
all summer long.
I'm excited.
News, games, and more is IGN's live news show every day of the week that covers all the day's news about
Planet.
games, movies, comics, and of course
That
more.
is a
This is our
question we'd
daily
all
live
like to
show
know.
that takes a rotating cast of IGN talent, going over all the latest news of the day while taking live questions and comments from chat. We're live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and you can find us on mixer.com/IGN, youtube.com/IGN, and twitch.tv/IGN. See you there.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, the best user-generated videos and art, memes, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
Everybody loves watching a speed run of their favorite game. But what if you got the
Yeah.
opportunity to peek
I
into
mean,
the minds of the developers
I'll
while
be
they
honest
watch
with
their
you, with
games get
Resident Evil,
completely wrecked? That's
I haven't
exactly
played
what
every
happens in
single one of
every
them,
episode of Game
but it's
Devs
definitely
React
one
to
of the
speedruns.
games that I definitely will play.
We
But
invite you to ride along with
my
the
only
developers
issue
as
with
they
Resident
react
Evil and
to,
most of
question,
these
and
horror
enjoy some of the
games is
most
that
skilled players
I get
exploiting
really
and
scared.
speeding through a game it took years of their
I
life to
get really
create.
scared.
Join us
playing
every
these
Saturday
games.
for a new
But
episode.
I would love to play
The
it
next generation of
properly
video gaming
from
is
like
on the horizon, and IGN is
1
here to
to
bring you the
8.
latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news and analysis in our new weekly show, Next Gen Console Watch.
It would be so
2020.
cool if they
We'll
like
bring on the experts
remastered
to
all of
discuss
them.
and analyze all the
brought them
latest
to
developments
PS5.
around these new consoles, from frame rates,
Late.
services,
Konnichiwa.
features, peripherals,
Hi.
and even all the new tech jargon. Next Gen Console Watch 2020 will keep you up to speed on everything leading up
I
to
would
the
love-
next
I would love to
generation
see
of
all
gaming.
of them
Join
on
us
the
every
platform.
Friday for a new episode.
To be honest, the same for even Abe's, like honestly, Oddworld, Soulstorm, because it would be really cool to have every single one of the titles
Welcome back to
on
GameScoop
the
here on IGN
PS5.
Summer of Gaming. Don't forget to keep those donations to the Bail Project and World Health Organization coming. Right now, let's switch gears from the PS5 conference just for a second. Earlier in this week, as part of the IGN Expo, Sam and I had the opportunity to talk with the folks over at Arcade 1UP. Actually, the head 1UP. The head 1UP
Favorite
honcho
Resident
himself.
Evil
Just
game. I
bought
haven't
the
played enough
final
of them
boss,
to
the
tell
final
you.
boss of
I
Arcade
wish I'd
1UP.
played more, 'cause
And they
then I'd
revealed
be
some new
able to
arcade
give
cabinets
you
on our
a
show, which is super
better-
cool. People just go
a
nuts for these
better
cabinets. I think that was
judgment
our
of my
most
favorite.
popular piece of content that day. So they revealed new cabinets. They revealed Miss Pac-Man, X-Men versus Street Fighter, Big Buck Hunter, the light gun shooting game, and then a 3/4
What's your
pinball machine
favorite?
of Marvel Pinball, which is interesting because Marvel Pinball was a digital pinball game that came to Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network, and now they've recreated a physical version of that with a screen. So first of all, I think people are going to be super excited for Miss Pac-Man. Sam, why is this such a big deal?
It's weird because Namco designed Pac-Man, Toru Iwatani designed it in Japan, and then two MIT students modded it and sold their mod, and then Midway, who published Pac-Man here, bought that mod and made Miss Pac-Man out of it. So Namco doesn't really put out Miss Pac-Man. They kind of like are like, oh, that's something else. And then the licensing is weird, and so even though we think of it as like the sequel to Pac-Man, it's the biggest thing in the world. To like,
I
it's so
didn't
natural
even
to
know
say
there
I want
was a Miss
Pac-Man, Miss
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, right?
What?
Like it was just really hard to license this game and put it out, but they did, and they made it pink and blue and glorious. It's so cool. It's the funniest little art package for
Famous
Miss
Resi
Pac-Man.
5. Awesome.
It's a very, very pretty cabinet. I love it. And then we're seeing a Big Buck Hunter here. How are they handling this tech without a CRT television?
Yeah, so I looked.
I just
this up.
want to
So
see trailers.
basically,
I want to
you know,
see
you used
what
to have
else
an old school television or a
Ubisoft
Wii
is
remote
doing, 'cause
to
there was
point at
gonna
a
be
television
Ubisoft
so it knew where
trailers,
things
right?
are. Like those are the two technologies, and the Wii remote
I
used
haven't even
like
researched
basically
or
you can use
had
two
a little bit
candles
of a
or two
look. Normally
infrared
what I
light
do is
sources,
like
and
I
then
have a
it
little
kind of
look
knew
on
where
the
you were
internet
pointing.
for
This draws a
what we
box of
might see
pixels
upcoming.
around the screen, and then a camera on the gun knows where you're
always
pointing.
good.
That's basically how it works.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the cabinets are very
I
cool.
don't
They're all
know
coming later
what
this year.
Ubisoft
I'm especially
is gonna
excited for the Miss
announce
Pac-Man
today.
one.
I'm pretty sure
But
it
let's
is
share our
today.
personal favorites for
conference.
games we've seen so far. It could be from Sony's PS5 event or something from an IGN Expo. Lucy, let's start with you.
Look, I'm bored by my answer, but I have to be truthful to myself. Horizon Forbidden
Always.
West. It just like it was such a glorious thing to see. I thought that basically they were going to perhaps show a logo with a tiny
was
cinematic.
incredible.
But you know, we got so much richness in this trailer, and it just with the creatures sort of having this kind of more bio-organic form to them, like the giant turtle covered in moss. And the underwater sections just like excite me so much, just immediately extremely claustrophobic. And again, just this thought of being in this open world again. I loved Horizon Zero Dawn, and returning to it on the PlayStation 5 is just so exciting to me. And I'm also very super excited that Aloy is back. There was a lot of discussion as to whether or not she was kind of iconic enough as a protagonist to return, whether they were going to mix it up with someone new. But I loved Aloy. I thought she was a fantastic character, and I'm really pleased she was important enough to Sony to return in the sequel. So I'm just all in on this one.
And as Sam pointed out earlier today, the
agree,
logo
lady.
for Horizon Forbidden West it does seem to have a 2 in it, right?
Yeah, it has a 2.
Or I don't know if it's just supposed to be like a subliminal thing, to let you know
It
it's
has like
Horizon
a
2.
Roman
It's
numeral
the
2,
sequel.
but it's not called that.
Okay, Tina, I believe we didn't get a chance to talk about this earlier, but I think Ghostwire Tokyo was your pick.
Oh yeah, I mean, as one of the resident big fans of horror, psychological horror, especially this like creepy world and set in somewhere that's so
cool.
iconic as Tokyo, it was so amazing to see it kind of evaporated of all of humankind, and then facing what are
agree.
called visitors, I believe. I just loved the style, but also the setting and the way that the gameplay is represented here, where it just seems like this very like magic heavy. Interesting way of combating all of
Thanks, Slay.
these really creepy enemies. It just looks completely my jam in terms of all of those elements. And I can't wait to see more. I mean, we did see the teaser that kind of set the tone back in, I believe, last year's E3. It was just purely cinematic. So we finally got to see a chance of how that's going to blend, how that tone and style is going to actually blend in a gameplay way. And it looks like it's perfectly symbiotic,
I feel that.
adding to that kind of
I
depth
get
of
that.
creepiness and fantasy world that I love to see in
That
games.
just freaked me out. That was like the
And to
ring.
think it's
Lucy, I
from the
believe you're-
creator
See ya.
of Goof Troop on the Super Nintendo. I just can't believe that.
Yep.
But yeah, Shinji Mikami, he had a Resident Evil trailer in this. How weird is that?
Yeah.
I know it. Isn't
Yeah,
it
like,
wild?
Somebody else is making his games now, and then he put this out. It's really funny.
I mean, I'm really stoked for this because it's such a departure for what Tango has done previously, and of course what Shinji Mikami is known for. I really felt like The Evil Within was a successor to Resident Evil. It felt like the next logical step, right, for Shinji Mikami. This feels completely different. Like it's still, we're seeing some horror stuff still. We've got a kind of Slender Man kind of trope in there. We've got the creepy child with no head. But it's yeah, exactly. But as Tina said, it's very psychedelic and weird and different. And I have no idea how you play it, but I love that Tango's going in a different direction with this one.
Seems to be a lot of
Also,
magic from hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of
I
like
believe that's the
reminds me
technical
of
term.
BioShock.
Yes, magic from hands.
How else are you gonna cast? You gonna cast a spell by waving your foot around? That would be ridiculous.
Someone make that game.
It's also it was interesting that both Ghostwire and Deathloop, two Bethesda games, are going console exclusive to PS5.
Yeah, that's a big
that's a
get.
great
I think
get
that was not really like super hammered home in this showcase, but we all kind of found out after the fact. But those are massive wins for the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, it has 13 exclusives, and the Xbox has 5 right now.
Wow. But who's keeping score?
Sam.
All right.
Did you
what
hear that,
will be your pick?
guys? Did you hear the amount
So
of
I picked a game
exclusives
that
Sony
we
has?
actually revealed for the first time this week, and this is not a troll pick, as Damon keeps on accusing me of. It's because we're on Game Scoop, and sometimes we talk about old games, and this game looks really cool. It's called Alex Kidd, and it was a game for the Master
Troll pick.
System, and the Master System was for kids that were very sad because they didn't have an NES. So most people didn't play this game except for a bunch of sad kids in 1987. So I'm really happy that
Oh my
we can all
gosh.
be sad kids now. No, just kidding. But no, it looks so cool. Like, I mean, it's an interesting game. It's their answer to Mario at the time, but it was all about puzzle platforming. You hit a bunch of cubes out of walls and climb up things and stuff like that.
This is cute.
I love the remake graphics, and I love how you can swap between a retro look and
Nice
the
little
contemporary
platform.
one, which you can do, which is always a cool thing. And I just think it'll be a cool bubblegum game that also has some history behind it.
Sam, you'd be
Yeah,
interested
no.
to know that New Zealand was not a Nintendo country. It was a Sega country, right? So every kid who had a console had a Master System. So most kids in New Zealand played Alex Kidd. And so
And you know
this
what's
is
crazy?
like a gift to New Zealanders.
Oh, Alex Kiwi. It was built into consoles at some point. So, like, every kid that even had a Master System, you just turn on with a cartridge in it and it would play Alex Kidd. Isn't that crazy? Like, we don't think of that as, like, something that would happen in the 80s to, like, build in basically a game. But it happened with that. It's cool.
That's interesting. So Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX is a gift to New Zealanders, and Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy was a gift from New Zealanders.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My
Put that
pick,
on the
I think
box.
the game, the most impressive thing I've seen so far is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Just like I was saying before, it's the first thing that I've seen that I've been like, wow, that looks really impressive. That seems to actually be showing
Nobody
off
mentioned
the PS5's.
Bridge of
I would
Spirit.
have not predicted
SSD.
this being the Davey
What?
game.
Really? I mean, I've played Ratchet and Clank games before and enjoyed them. I think this
Resi 8?
Rift mechanic right here that just looks so cool, and I can't wait to do that.
I thought you'd be all in on Stray.
I mean, we already talked about Stray earlier. Stray also looks very
We
cool.
gave Stray its due.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like everyone seems to really be feeling that the PlayStation had a really great showing yesterday. Where do you think this leaves Microsoft? I think there's, we're expecting to get some sort of showcase for them next month in July. Tina, what do you think Microsoft needs to do to sort of
I wonder what
keep up with
Microsoft
Sony
will do.
now that Sony's sort of taken the torch from them and run with all the next gen hype?
I mean, it helps that Sony had 37 games, which I believe, we had marked that Xbox was about half of that. I imagine they have a few tricks up their sleeve that they're waiting to reveal too. I think a big part of it is also the presentation quality and the fact that the conversation was very specifically focused on how many games there were and the reveal of the hardware design. So it's hard to really find any negativity in the Sony conversation around so many big reveals and so many big news drops. Whereas for
True.
Xbox's last showcase, at the very least, that got mired in a lot of conversation around Valhalla, not presenting anything gameplay wise. People had this big expectation, and I think that they had developed a lot of hype that was therefore like not really met at the end of the day, and that kind of withdrew a lot of the positive sentiment that they've been accruing since some of the negative sentiment around their previous generation. So I think they've been doing a really great job being communicative and transparent with the community, and I really respect that as far as their positioning goes and their methodology in communicating with us goes. So I think keeping up with that and a couple more games, and hopefully not leading themselves into their own pitfalls that they fell into a little bit there in last month's reveal, is the way to go for them.
All right, well, Tina, Lucy, and Sam, thank you so much for hanging out with me on Game Scoop today. This is totally fun.
Thanks
But
for having
everybody
me
out
on.
there, everyone out there, that about does it for the Summer of Gaming edition of Game Scoop. But we hope you'll stick around for our charity stream featuring speedrunner Jesus Here's Toast, blasting through Bloodborne, which counts us down to the third of our 4 IGN Expos at 2:30 Pacific time. We've got tons of brand new trailers and gameplay to share, plus IGN News live,
That's what I
rounding out the
wanna
day with
see.
highlights and analysis. Follow us on TikTok, donate, send us a yappa, watch us on IGN One on your Samsung TV Plus. It's your summer of gaming. Enjoy it your way. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. My name is Damon. This is IGN Game Soup, and we're out.
Oh man,
Gaming is brought to you by
I want to
Fuser.
see the trailers.
Partying with us.
I guess
all
it's
summer
gonna
long.
be a while though until they put on the trailers. Oh, Oh man, that's kind of, I don't know, it's a slight letdown because I
Everybody
was hoping
loves
for some
watching a
trailers
speed
right
run
now,
of their favorite
but
game. But what if you got the opportunity to peek into the minds of the developers while they watch their games getting completely wrecked? That's exactly what happens in every episode of Game Devs React to speedruns.
You can do that. Oh my god!
We invite you to ride along with the developers as they react to, question, and enjoy some of the most skilled players exploiting and speeding through a game it took years of their life to create. Join us every Saturday for a new episode.
I've not seen
If you're
anything
not
like
following
this
IGN
before.
on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the
Yeah,
latest
I'm here for the
news,
trailers, but there's
gameplay,
been no trailers so far. Just a whole
custom
bunch of
original
commentary,
content,
which,
the best user-generated
so good.
videos and art,
let's have a look.
memes,
Um,
and a whole lot
find
more.
this.
Be part of the
to-
conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook,
Okay.
TikTok, and Snapchat.
So,
The next
What
generation
I
of video
read
gaming is
is
on the
that-
horizon, and IGN is here to bring you the latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news and
goes live at
analysis in our new
12.
weekly show.
Oh, okay.
Next Gen
So we've
Console
got
Watch
our
2020.
trailers
We'll bring on the
and
experts to discuss and
countdown
analyze all the latest
challenge.
developments around
No,
these
not
new
countdown
consoles.
challenge.
From
Trailers,
frame rates,
gameplay demos,
services, features,
developer
peripherals, and even
interviews,
all the new
and
tech jargon.
previews
Next Gen
at
Console Watch
2:30.
2020 will keep you up to
So,
speed on everything leading up to the
that
next
is,
generation
like,
of gaming.
an hour and
Join
a
us
half
every
from now.
Friday for a new episode.
I'm gonna head
News,
off
games,
then.
and more is IGN's
And I will
live
be
news
back
show
in
every day of the week that
around
covers
an
all
hour
the
and a
day's
half
news about games, movies,
watch
comics,
the
and of course more.
gameplay,
This is our daily
trailers,
live show that
and
takes
all
a
that fun
rotating
stuff.
cast of
So,
IGN talent, going over all the latest
will see
news
you
of the
guys
day
then,
while taking live
because,
questions and
I
comments
mean, this
from
is all
chat.
well and
We're-
good, but I seriously, I really, really want to see all these epic games and trailers. So I will see you guys in a bit. Sayonara. See you later.